Welcome to Encounter Wargaming, I'm Jay, and today we're continuing our look at the 3rd edition of Warhammer 40,000 with Codex Assassins. Alright, so Codex Assassins. Like I say, this is probably the smallest codex ever made. I was pointing out in the last few videos how small the 3rd ed code is. Look at this. It's so small they can't even write on the spine. It's literally like a freaking pamphlet. So this is probably going to be one of the shortest videos we've done on Relics of the Dark Age. But like I say, I wanted to go through 3rd ed in order, so this is the next one in line. So yeah, it is what it is. Codex Assassins. So let's check out the inside here, get right into this. So publishing information right off the bat, written by Gav Thorpe. Sweet. And very much like the 2nd ed one, it just covers the 4 main houses of assassins. But unlike the 2nd ed one, it is, like the 2nd ed one at least gave you a whole bunch of fluff, and there were literally 2 pages of rules for each assassin. And this one, I'm not sure there is nearly that much. But either way, looking at the publishing year, 1999, okay, yep, so we're keeping on par with the books we've been doing so far. And as you can see, the table of contents is pretty damn small, considering there is only 4 assassins to cover. It's literally 10 pages. Yikes. Okay, so, like I was saying, they wanted to keep things simple. People complained that there was no fluff, or too much fluff, sorry. Why were they paying money for a big gigantic book when all they needed was rules? So GW decided to release books that were just rules, and this is the result. Paying a lot more money, if you think about it, for only 10 pages. I don't even remember what the price of this book was when it came out, but I think it was in the range of like $16, maybe $20 Canadian, whereas your normal codex was like $30, so, or $40 depending on the thickness of it. So would you rather spend $45 on a nice big thick book that it gives you all kinds of fluff and stories, or would you rather spend $20 on a book that's literally 10 pages and you can read through it in an hour? 6 of one, half dozen of the other, I guess, but in my opinion I'd rather have all the cool fluff and stuff like that. But either way, this is what it is, right guys? So we've got, as usual, on the first page, just some pictures of the minis. At this point they came out with a 2nd Vindicare Assassin. I believe the only one out in 2nd ed was this guy. You can tell by the silly looking orc skull on his base. And moving on, and just like the Space Marines and the Dark Eldar, right into the army list. So you've got 1 page of introduction, just telling you what the assassins are, how to use them in your games, what's in this book, of course. There you go. And as you can tell, there's only elites choices. So I believe the way this worked is that you simply took an assassin as an elite in one of your other Imperial armies, whether that be Imperial Guard, Space Marines, or later on in this edition we come out with the Witch Hunters and the Demon Hunters. But at this particular point it was just Space Marines and Imperial Guard. Yeah, I don't think they did a Sisters book until the Witch Hunter book, which was like 3.5. So this is what it is. Your Inquisitors and stuff we saw in the rule book obviously can be allied in the same way. It's not really allies as such. There wasn't really ally rules in this edition, but you could just take them as an elite choice in any of either Space Marine or Imperial Guard army. And I'm just going to read this over quick to make sure I'm actually correct. Assassins can be included in any Space Marine, Imperial Guard, or Sisters of Battle army. There you go. Oh, I guess we're running off the rulebook unit entries for the Sisters of Battle until they come out with a book, so there you go. I was wrong about that, but I am correct. You can use them as an elite choice in any of those armies. You may never have more than 1 assassin in your army. Okay, makes perfect sense. All Imperial Assassins have the profiles listed here. In addition, they have extra war gear and special rules depending on the temple. Okay. So this is what they've done. It's literally just an Imperial Assassin. They're all the same thing. Same stat line, 50 points. All these special rules. And then you just choose a temple. So the Vindicare is plus 60. The Adversary is plus 45. Calidus plus 70. And Colex is plus 55. And so they all have Infiltrate, Fearless, Dodge, which is a 4-up invulnerable save, and then you simply select their temple, which gives them extra special rules. And now we're going to get into the temples. Cool. So they give you a little blurb of fluff. That's kind of nice, at least. Like I say, the second Ed one, we kind of had 2 pages per assassin. It was like, this is all the story stuff. This is all the rules. Whereas in this, again, because the game is much more streamlined than second edition, there's just not as many rules to write down, to publish. So yeah, starting with the Vindicare Assassin. On top of the normal rules, like we just discussed for all assassins, the Vindicare has a Spy Mask, which reduces the cover save of its target. So a 5-up becomes a 6-up, 6-up is negated, and so on. Spy Mask means the Vindicare rolls 2d6 times 5 for determining how far you can see in night fighting. Okay, I believe the norm was 2d6 times 3 in this edition. So he sees 2d6 times 5, that's handy. So he's got a stealth suit. Any unit wishing to shoot at the Vindicare Assassin must test to see as if they're using the night fight rules. And there you go, I was right, 2d6 times 3. If night fighting rules are already being used, the assassin can only be seen if he's within half the normal range of the unit's vision, i.e. if they score an 18, they can only see 9. Wow, so it's like double night fight. Crazy. He is, of course, armed with an Exodus rifle. 36-inch range, always wounds on a 2+, oh no, hits on a 2+, wounds on a 4+, my mistake. With AP2. Yee. So yeah, you ain't getting a save from that. He's pretty much always going to hit you, and you can win anything on a 4+. I guess it's the same as any sniper rifle in this edition, was 4+ to wound, if I remember correctly. In addition, he may fire, instead of his normal shot, keep note of which rounds has been fired. The special rounds are used one at a time, and you must declare that you are using one of the special shots before you roll the dice. So he's got a shield breaker shot, which ignores invulnerable saves. Wow. But not invulnerable saves which the model has part of his basic characteristic. Right, so a Greater Demon's 5+ invulnerable save is taken as normal, but a Chaplain's 4+ Rosarius is ignored. That makes sense, because it's not a piece of war gear. The demon save is literally his demonic aura, as opposed to a piece of war gear that's generating a force field. That makes perfect sense. And also, like, you know, the quick reflexes that these guys have. Was it called quick reflexes? What was it actually called? Dodge is included in their profile, the 4-up invulnerable save, right? So if he was shooting at another assassin, they would still get their 4-up save. But if he's shooting at a captain with a 4-up or with a 3-up invulnerable or something like that, it would just be ignored. It's pretty crazy. Turbo Penetrator inflicts 2 wounds on any model wounded. If fired at a vehicle, it has an armor penetration of 3d6. Okay, in this edition, you are rolling 2d6 plus your strength, very similar to the way it worked all the way up until 7th. It's 2d6 plus your strength. Oh, sorry, my mistake. It's d6 plus your strength for normal stuff. 2d6 for Meltas. 2d6 pick the highest for ordnance. So 3d6 is just, ew, overpowered. And then of course it's got a Hellfire shot, which wounds on a 2+ instead of a 4+. So why would you not use that all the time? Hitting on a 2, wounding on a 2? Are used one at a time and must declare. Yeah, it doesn't say they're one per battle. They're used one at a time. Cool. Special rules. He's a marksman. You may nominate a model targeted by the Vindicare Assassin when he is shooting, such as a sergeant or a heavy weapon trooper. This means you get to choose which model is taken off, not the enemy. In addition, Vindicare can target any model in range and line of sight regardless of the targeting restrictions, such as independent characters within 6 inches of another unit. So, like, independent characters couldn't be picked out in this edition if they were near a squad. Unlike nowadays where it's closest in order to target them. If they were just not near anybody, then you could target them in this edition. But the Vindicare can target a specific model regardless. And again, in this edition, you choose which models you take off. So basically, with normal shooting, Unlike later editions where you're taking the closest, like in 6th and 7th, you're taking the closest model to the firing model off. And this you would be taking from the backs of the unit. That's the way it worked in 3rd. So you could literally have your sergeants up front, which was super fun. Alright, moving on to the Codex Temple. Now these are the anti-psyker assassins. So again, with all the normal special rules for assassins, they also have an Ethereum. Any unit wishing to shoot or charge the Colexus, and any psyker trying to target him with a psychic power, must pass a leadership test. If the test has failed, they may attack another target instead, but obviously can't attack him. Cool. He's got the Animus Speculum, which has a profile for every psyker within 12 inches of the Codex Assassin. Add 1 to their Animus Speculum's assault value, i.e. Assault 2 becomes Assault 3 if there is 1 psyker within 12 inches. So it's a Strength 5 shot, AP 1, Assault 2. So the more psykers you have nearby, the more powerful this weapon gets. That's cool, so it's just a little pistol shot. That's Strength 5 though, that's wild. And then he's got Psych Out Grenades, which instead of firing his Animus Speculum, he may throw a Psych Out Grenade, which is useful against Psykers. Psych Out Grenades have a range of 6 inches. Roll to hit as normal. If the Psyker is hit, they must pass a leadership test on 2d6. For each point the Psyker fails his test, he loses 1 wound. Saving throws may be taken as normal. Okay, it's not that powerful. For example, a Psyker with leadership 7, due to the Soulless rule opposite, rolls a 9 and loses 2 wounds. Cool. So I'm not sure what the Soulless rule is. Oh, it's over here in the special rules. Okay, so collects the special rules. We're going to start with we're going to go in order though. Psychic Abomination. Any Psyker within 6 inches of a Colexus at the start of their turn must pass a morale check or fall back. So literally, he scares away Psykers. If they are with a unit, then the unit falls back. Yikes. Let's get the hell out of here. Soulless. Any unit friend or foe with a model within 12 inches of the assassin counts as having leadership 7, unless it would normally be less than this. So that's why the example here gives you leadership 7. Everybody's leadership 7. Yeah, any unit friend or foe, anybody nearby is leadership 7. Crazy. That's a good way to negate Space Marine leadership. He is a Psyker Assassin, which means he can always target a Psyker specifically with any shooting attacks, regardless of whether the Psyker is in a unit, an independent character, etc. Colex's Assassin may ignore other models when charging into an assault, which will allow him to come in contact with a Psyker. Yeah, he's going right for the Psyker. And his final special rule is Life Drain. Colex's Assassins may use this ability in close combat with a Psyker before any attacks are worked out, but after the models are moved. Roll 2d6 and add the leadership value of their respective models. Remember, Soulless reduces to 7, yeah. If the Colex's Assassin scores higher, the Psyker loses 1 wound, with no saving throw. Of any type. Invulnerables, not even invulnerable saves. This is worked out at the start of every round of close combat, and wounds inflicted by this attack count towards the combat resolution. All other close combat attacks are worked out as normal. So literally, he just like fries the Psyker's brain just by being near him. Cool. Alright, moving on to the Codex Temple. Now these are those cool chicks with the long ponytails. I always love the look of the Codex model. And especially the one that came in that board game. What was it called? Maybe you guys can throw in the comments what that board game was called, where you had the assassins fighting against the Chaos Terminator Lord and the cultists. I remember playing it once with Adam, and now, for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the game. But you guys know what I'm talking about. Anyway, Codex has, in addition to all of the other stuff that assassins obviously have, which we've been over, it has a Catan phase sword. Now, this is interesting to note because the Necrons, yes, were kind of a thing in 2nd edition. They did have rules for a minute, but they were only White Dwarf published. And then this was the edition where the Necrons finally came out, but it was much later in the edition than this. So, in fact, in 2nd edition, her sword was called the Catan phase sword. But they hadn't actually flushed out the fluff when it came to Catan. They weren't actually a thing yet in the storyline until they fully gave the Necrons a proper codex, which we will look at in the near future. But that's just worth noting that it's always been called a Catan phase sword, but nobody ever commented on what a Catan was until the Necron Codex came out, and then we discovered that they are in fact star gods. So what does it do? The Catan phase sword may only be used in close combat. No armor saves are allowed against a phase sword, not even in vulnerable saves. Okay, handy thing to have. She also has a neural shredder, which uses a flame template. Wow. Fired like a flame weapon. Roll the wound as follows. The neural shredder has a strength of 8, but rather than using the target's toughness value, it uses its leadership value. Huh. Other than this, the to wound chart is used as normal. For example, leadership 9 model is wounded on a 5+. Okay, that makes sense. A roll of 1 always fails, and to inflict a wound. Against vehicles, roll a D3 on the glancing hit table. The crew's brains are partially protected by the vehicle's armor. The neural shredder has the following profile. Strength X, obviously. It says it's strength 8. I don't know why they didn't just put 8 there. I guess to show you that it's special. It's AP 1, Assault 1, so you ain't getting an armor save neither. Crazy. She also has polymorphine, so this is what allows her to change her shape to sneak into enemy battle lines, right guys? So the Codex Assassin is always in reserve, even in missions which do not allow reserves. When she becomes available, she may be placed anywhere on the battlefield and can move and fight normally in the turn she arrives. Yikes. That's real good for just showing up and taking out the enemy leader or something like that. For sure. Or that, you know, one unit that's pissing you off. Charge her in there. And then she also possesses poison blades. If a Codex Assassin is still in base contact with an enemy model at the end of the assault phase, after all combats have been resolved, she may make an extra attack with her poison blades. That's cool. So after the combat's been resolved even, that's interesting. Roll to hit after any consolidation moves. She gets 1 attack, which always wounds on a 4+, no armor saves allowed. Cool. Now for her special rules, she's got jump back, which means at the start of the assault phase, the Calidus can attempt to disengage from combat. Roll a d6 on a 1, she fails. Must fight in the combat normally. On a 2 or more, she moves that many inches away from the enemy. Huh. This move cannot be used to move into contact with different enemies. If this leaves the enemy unit engaged, they may make unengaged. They may make a consolidate move at the end of the assault phase. Makes sense. So if she's losing the battle, just jump her the fuck out of there. A word in your ear is the next special rule. A player with a Codex Assassin can move one enemy unit within 6 inches. Up to 6 inches, sorry, after both sides have deployed, but before the first turn. The unit's new position must be within the normal deployment zone, and owning player may choose the facing of the unit if it has been moved. Neat. Because she literally disguises herself as one of the enemy troops, right? And that's why she pops up anywhere on the battlefield. She literally, like, disguises herself as an orc. And then, you know, all the orcs are right at the front of the deployment zone ready for battle, and she says to one of them, hey, maybe we should be over there, guys. And they go, oh, okay, and they start moving 6 inches over in another direction. That would actually be really handy to use against, like, that predator that you know is going to blow your predator off the battlefield in the first turn. Like I said, you get to pick the facing, so you could probably give it some crappy facing so it couldn't hit you. Super cool. And last but not least, the Eversor Assassin, or Eversor, I've heard people say. So once again, in addition to all the rules that all assassins share, this guy also has an Executioner Pistol, which is a bolt pistol / needle pistol combi weapon that may be fired as one or the other, but not both. These have the profile given below. The needle pistol always wounds on a 4+, regardless of the target's toughness. A needle pistol has an armor penetration of D6 against vehicles. That sucks. Because it doesn't have a strength, so it's always just D6. That's awfully silly, actually, now that I think of it, because the lowest armor in the game is 10, and if the highest you can roll is 6. Boo. Why even put that? Maybe I'm just misinterpreting. Anyway, bolt pistol standard, 12-inch range, strength 4, AP 5. That's what we're used to seeing. Needle pistol, 12-inch range, strength X. So it just says it always runs on a 4+. Right, so it's basically a mini sniper rifle.
at AP6. He also has a power weapon and melt bombs, which rules are in the Warhammer 40k rulebook. Okay, fair enough. That's worth commenting on, actually, guys, because this is the first time in Warhammer 40,000 where they actually start saying refer to the rulebook. Rather than publish everything like 10, 12 times like they did in second, they constantly in this tell you to refer to the rulebook. It wasn't until 4th that they actually started putting page numbers, but in this edition it seems like a lot of the books they just said refer to the Warhammer 40,000 rulebook without actually putting a page number there. I think for anticipation of making these codices backwards compatible when they change the rules. Like they were already thinking about that. Rather than completely redoing an edition every time, they can redo the rules now, and you don't have to change the codex. It becomes completely compatible. Yet somehow in 4th edition they started putting page numbers, which was really confusing because once they came out with the 5th ed book and all the 4th ed stuff was backwards compatible, all those page numbers were wrong. Right? So, whatever. It is what it is, but it's just something I should comment on. Since the point of this series is to see the evolution of the game and how things have evolved. Anyway, back to the Eversur Assassin's War Gear. We've got a Neural Gauntlet, which is a close combat weapon. Your roll to hit is normal, but don't roll the wound. Instead, you cause a wound on a d6 roll of 4+, regardless of the toughness, and with no armor save allowed. Invulnerable saves may be taken as normal. Vehicles hit by a Neural Gauntlet take a glancing hit on a d6 roll of 6, regardless of the vehicle's armor value. Okay, cool. Awesome. And he also has combat drugs. Sweet. The Eversur Assassin can charge 12 inches in the assault phase, or double the distance of the dice roll if moved through difficult terrain. Okay, that's cool. When the Eversur charges into close combat, it gains an extra d6 attacks rather than the +1. Whoa! So what do Assassins have base? I'm just going to look back. I just want to do this math in my head quick. They have 3 base attacks, so he could have up to 9 attacks. Did I ignore armor saves? Jeez, and always wound on a 4+, no matter what your toughness is. I get the impression he'd be good at bringing down some big baddies. Fast shot. The Eversur's heightened metabolism allows it to act with incredible speed. The Eversur never counts as moving when firing its executioner pistol. Okay, so it may always fire twice. It's handy to not count as moving when shooting. Neat. Bio Meltdown. If the Eversur is killed, place a blast marker center over the model. Wow. Any model touched by the template takes an automatic strength 5 hit with saving throws allowed as normal. The Eversur is then removed from play. So yeah, why wouldn't you just throw this guy at an enemy Demon Prince? You know, he could have 9 attacks that are going to wound that toughness 6 model on a 4+. Ignoring his, possible 3+ armor save, obviously he's still going to get his 5 up invuln. And if he doesn't succeed and the Demon Prince decides to kill the Eversur, then he explodes in his face and he still has another chance to kill the bastard on a 5+ to wound. That's wild. So that's all the Assassins, all 4 of them. Like I say, it was a real quick read through. I actually went into more detail than I normally do, just simply because there really isn't that much material in this book. But here they're showing how to game, telling you how to incorporate the Assassins into your army. You could literally have a game where you just have 1 Assassin on the field. That's crazy. Single Assassin versus an entire force. At the most straightforward level, the Assassin's opponent is allowed a small army. Assassin starts a fair distance away, 24 inches. Cool. Make sure there's quite enough of terrain. Yeah, so this is basically an early version of Kill Team. It's telling you right here. Literally like a small kill team of orcs versus 1 Assassin in a very densely packed table. Cool. An Eversur Assassin has been dispatched to assault enemy command post, destroying anything it comes across. Works well for a 2-player game, but can be played solo as well. Played solo. Interesting. Command posts represented by floor plans, such as Space Hulk boards, are ideal. Okay, I guess Space Hulk was still being sold at this point. Which are laid out at the start of the game with 2 players. The defending player picks a 750 to 1,000 points and assigns a unit to each room of the command post. These units are not placed on the table and may do nothing until the assassin enters the room. or a friendly model which has encountered the assassin enters the room. In addition, at the end of any of the turns in which there was shooting or close combat, depending on the player, the rolls a d6. Unit adjacent combat shooting took place. 4, 5, or 6. They are alerted by the sounds of combat and are placed on the table at the start of their next turn. Defenders who are broken fall back towards the nearest friendly occupied room. Yeah, okay, that makes perfect sense. As a solo game, I'm definitely interested in reading this because I don't know. I've tried many times to play Warhammer solo, and it just doesn't. It's just not fun. So this is cool. The assassin player must pick the defending army, and when units would be placed on the table, randomly generate which unit appears. Okay. You'll have to use a bit more common sense when controlling the defenders. Basically, most squads will attempt to stand and shoot at the assassin. Close combat experts such as orcs and dark elder witches, for example, will try to assault the assassin. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Any enemy army unwittingly invaded a world used by one of the assassin-armed temples as a training ground, they suddenly find themselves beset with a veritable army of assassins. This is pretty simple but a fun battle. Assassins may only use one assassin at a time, but every time the assassin is killed, another takes their place. You should nominate a feature on the tabletop to be the entrance of the temple's hidden complex. The assassins must prevent enemy models moving into contact with the entrance. Keep track of the number of assassins killed, then swap sides with your opponent and see if they can do better. Cool. These are just cool ways to, like, play the game differently. I didn't even remember them doing this kind of stuff in this edition, so I actually think that's really cool. And you'll see actually in the Witch Hunter and Demon Hunters Codex, they actually give you units which can only be used against the Witch Hunters, or only used against the Demon Hunters. So 3rd Ed did have some fun sidebar stuff like that, where you could just do something different for fun, rather than just your standard, standard Force Org chart versus your standard Force Org chart kind of situation. Cool. And, just like all the other books, there is a specific scenario just for the assassins, which is super cool, with again, very different selection charts. So, assassination scenario, let's just see what this has. Long table edge, short table edge, corner. Both players roll a dice. The highest scoring player may choose their deployment zone. The other player deploys along the opposite edge or corner. The attacking player deploys all of their army up to 12 inches onto the table. The defending player then deploys his army 12 inches onto the opposite edge or corner. Infiltrators are deployed after all the units, blah blah blah, not within 18 inches of an enemy model. Each player roll a dice, and the highest player can decide whether to deploy their infiltrators first or second. And the attacker automatically has the first turn. Cool. So the mission objective, the assassin must eliminate the enemy character with the highest points value. Okay. Defender obviously must declare which model this is. And survive to the end of the battle. If the assassin has not killed the target by the end of the game, the defender wins outright. If the assassin's target is killed and the assassin is still alive at the end of the battle, then the attacker wins. If the target is eliminated and the assassin has also been killed, then use victory points to determine the winner. But do not count victory points for the assassin or the target, i.e. only other units count towards victory points. Okay, that's fair. So, assassin kills the model, assassin's army wins. Model stays alive and the assassin dies, enemy army wins. Both die, just becomes a normal game. Cool, alright, last 6 turns. Excellent. And then, of course, just a little bit of fluff to see you out. And that is actually a really cool diorama. I remember that one being shown elsewhere back in the day. Looks really cool. And actually, I really like that paint scheme. Sort of bone-colored assassins. That looks wicked cool. Cool. So that's basically it, guys. That is the 3rd Ed Codex Assassins.
Alright, so that was Codex Assassins, probably the smallest codex ever printed in the history of Warhammer 40,000. So that was probably a little more brief than we're used to with this series, but that's okay, because I wanted to keep going in order. I don't want to, you know, leave anything out, and I want to push anything aside for later, kind of thing. So that's the look at the Assassins. Obviously, like I said, much more streamlined, much less granular than the second edition version of the Codex Assassins, which is also a pretty small book, but, you know, I don't know, like 3 times the size of this one, right? So anyway, next time on Relics of the Dark Age, we're going to keep going through all the codices in chronological order, as best I think I have them in chronological order. And the next one, of course, is going to be Craft World Eldar. So, actually, in this edition, it's just Codex Eldar, because we don't actually all we have is the Eldar and the Dark Eldar. They do come out with Harlequins later in 3rd, but much, much later. And they're not really considered part of the game at the point of the publication of this book, I should say. So, that being said, we're going to look at that next time on this Relics of the Dark Age series, and I hope you guys have been enjoying the series so far. I've had a lot of fun, like I always say, looking back on these books, because it just brings back great memories of my childhood, and I guess in this case my, you know, sort of grade 8 and 9 year, sort of my preteen sort of situation. So it brings back great memories from my formative years, and it's just fun looking back and seeing how the game has evolved. So if you guys like this series, if you liked this video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button so that you know when our future content comes out, because I'm going to be doing a whole bunch more of these videos, guys. And like I've said before, we don't just do these classic Hammer videos, we also do battle reports, we do hobby tutorials, terrain tutorials, we have a podcast, we're all over the place, right? We're doing all kinds of stuff. And it's all available for free to you guys here on YouTube. But if you do want to support us and help us out, I would love it if you went to the description below and check out our Patreon campaign. For as little as $1, you can get all of our normal content, like I say, that we're providing to you now for free. You get it all earlier than the rest of the world. And there's also a whole bunch of other bonuses, like 10% off the warpainter.com. We give you some behind the scenes content here and there. Also, a lot of the times we do campaigns or we do series of video where like the final video will be a Patreon only. So you just simply jumping on there and paying us $1 a month gets you a whole bunch more stuff, and it helps us keep the lights on, keep, you know, miniatures and paints and everything going, keep building our terrain, and keep loving this hobby. So thank you so much for those patrons that have supported us, and everyone else, at the very least, please just hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and make sure to comment below. We'll see you at our next encounter.
Hey everybody, I'm Adam.
And I'm Jay.
We are Encounter Wargaming.
And we wanted to celebrate hitting our 1,500 subscribers with giving some stuff away. What are we giving away, Adam?
Fort Bane! Alright, we're calling this the 2,500 subscriber Forge Bane giveaway, because that's the target we need to hit to give this puppy away.
That's right. So the first thing you need to do is share this video, the video you are watching right now. And
then, click subscribe on YouTube.
if you haven't already.
That's it for one entry.
And the more you share it, hopefully, the more people we can get to hit subscribe and hit that 2,500.
Woohoo!
But there are other ways to win as well.
Tell them about it.
Well, you can follow us on Twitch. That will also get you an entry. So you subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Twitch. On top of that,
support us on Patreon for 5 big buckaroo entries.
Crazy. So also all the people that already support us on Patreon, don't worry, you're also 5 entries. But also, you can hit subscribe on Twitch. Subscribing on Twitch will get you another 5 entries into the contest.
So good, and all of this to say thank you guys for all the support. We appreciate it very much. We've come a long way, and it's because of you.
It's true. It's been a wild ride, and thanks for all the support, all the help, and we want to give you some cool stuff as a thank you.
Awesome. So hey, remember to share this video, and guys, I think that's it. So we'll see you at our next encounter.
Like a monkey in a rocket on its way back home. Okay. Scratching its head.